Okay, good morning, everybody. Well, it's coming up for midday, so good afternoon, 25th of February, I believe it is. I, I've been compelled to, uh, it's the 26th, not 25th of February. I've been compelled to do this voice note purely based on the fact that in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed a trend amongst WhatsApp group members in particular raising questions about charities or non-profit organizations or what people term as NPOs and the related scams that are being carried out. And in addition to this, I've noticed there's been a massive uptake of people, claiming so-and-so, for example, as a scammer, and they've done this and they've done that and they've done the next thing. So as a director of disaster relief CERT, my name is Chad Milam. My telephone number is 082-859-2684. I'd like to do this voice note, might be pretty lengthy, to explain some of the concerns that we have as an organization when it comes to looking at the disaster management cycle, and part of that cycle being disaster risk reduction, and also the whole concept of disaster risk management. And I want to be quite categoric in a couple of statements that need to be made that I believe not only group members, but in particular group administrators need to be aware of, and some of the legalities that underline the posts that are being submitted to the various WhatsApp and social media groups. But in addition to that legislative process, if I can put it to you that way, I also want to highlight the dangers with regards to disaster risk management and the impact it can have on communities overall. So let me see if I can structure this for the purpose of this voice note and hopefully to educate the group members, whoever might listen to it, and the group administrators. So let's take a scenario. So-and-so comes up on a WhatsApp group and they claim to offer whatever services ABC, and people respond to it and everything else. Okay, so that's all above board. That's the one case scenario. The second case scenario is you get a group member coming up and they state that they're raising funds or they are looking for donations for a particular NPO, and that's all fair and well. Or the third one that possibility comes, well, not possibly, does and has come up is somebody says, look, I've got X amount of clothing I would like to give away. Does anybody know which charity I can give it to? Okay, so there's three different scenarios. But there's a couple of caveats that have occurred in the last couple of months in particular. And looking at the first concept of so-and-so offering services ABC, we see this not only on general WhatsApp groups or general chat groups, but specifically when it comes to WhatsApp advertising groups. And you'll find a couple of days later, or whatever the case might be, suddenly a WhatsApp member comes up and says, yeah, no, this guy now has scammed me out of money, or this woman has scammed me out of money, and I got cheated, and I've lost this, and I've lost that, and I've lost everything else. All right. Now let's look at this from a legal perspective. First question, have you opened up a police case? Have you laid charges against that person? You have been subject to a scam. Therefore, it's considered fraud. Have you, the person who has now had your money taken from you, opened a case? And this is very important, not only for group members to understand, but administrators as well. And let me explain it to you this way. The reason that this case number is vitally important is it adds a legitimate claim to your accusations of being scammed. Now, let me be clear about this. Joe Blogs is trying to build a business as a sole proprietor, and he offers a service. in a particular area. But Jane Blogs has got a similar type of service in the same area. And now they feel that they are being outdone because the other John might be offering better pricing. So Jane speaks to her friend, and her friend then comes up and claims and makes the accusation that John has in actual fact scammed them, defrauded them. In order to ensure that business is not passed to John, but it rather goes to Jane. Do you see where the problem comes in? All right. In other words, there's a false accusation being made against John Doe, about his services. And there is no concrete proof that he has had charges laid against him, and this is why it becomes important to have a case number. But looking at it from a further legal aspect, John Doe could in actual fact make a claim or lay charges in actual fact against Jane Doe's friend who has made the accusation, either as libel, slander, or even defamation. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the very first thing that needs to be understood. Without a case number, whoever posts that message, whoever forwards that message, and where administrators allow such message to be posted to the group, each and every single one of you is guilty in terms of the Films and Publications Act of defamation, libel, or slander. Yeah, but hang on a second. I'm only forwarding the message. Why am I part of this? Hey, hang on. I'm the administrator. Why am I part of this? Because in terms of the Films and Publications Act, you as the person who is forwarding the message and you as a group administrator who has the control over the group to remove and delete slanderous, libelous, and defamation messages from your group in order to protect group members is considered to be part of the chain of publication. And that's why you yourself as an administrator can be charged. The other thing I'd like to add is that when such messages are put out there, you are in actual fact depriving that John Doe of him, you are depriving him or violating his right to conduct business, which is a constitutional right. Nobody has that right to do it. If it is a criminal matter, it's a different thing altogether. And until such time as that person is charged, then he's not a scammer at all. Now, there's two other aspects that need to be taken into account. You've got some criminal, and I'll use the word criminal, part of the, organized crime aspects, who have obtained all of these telephone numbers, and they join the WhatsApp groups, and they list their telephone number, WhatsApp name to be John Doe. And of course, John Doe might be a common name in the area. And they are the ones that are actually doing the scamming. But you as a WhatsApp member don't know if John Doe is a legitimate person conducting business as a sole proprietor or if it is a criminal. Therefore, to safeguard yourself from slander, libel, or defamation, rather don't say anything. And if you are defrauded, open a case. Then there's a third possibility. A criminal has managed to take over the WhatsApp account of another user through their various schemes. Oh, please provide this code, and then they get access to WhatsApp. And the legitimate John Doe suddenly has got no access to his WhatsApp account. It's going to take him 24 to 48 hours to recover his account, depending on how he set his phone up. And in that interim period, the criminal has already defrauded you. Again, you then have to open a case against John Doe on that telephone number. Now, that could be a bit of a problem for John Doe on that telephone number. However, it would then be up to John Doe through the legal process to say, no, hang on a second, my number was in actual fact hacked, because everybody uses the term hacking. It's actually a hijacking because the number's taken over. And John Doe would have to explain. Inevitably, when John Doe gets access to his account again, he can come up on the group and say, guys, this is what happened to me. And then other people on the group who might have been defrauded could come back and say, gee, John, sorry, man, I didn't realize that. Yes, I got defrauded. I'll open up a case against them. Well, we'll have to see if WhatsApp is going to play ball and hand over the telephone numbers and whatever else of the people that in actual fact hack the account. Okay, so that's the first point that people need to understand. The second thing with regards to charities and non-profit organizations, I need to make the following quite clear. There's been posts put out there on several occasions that we need to check. Let me just go back. In terms of the scamming, by the way, the only person responsible for protecting themselves from being scammed is the person making the purchase, not the other people, not the group administrators. Group administrators, you got no legal liability or whatsoever to protect your group members from being spammed, okay? Just accept that at face value. There's nothing in legislation. That might be a good thing to do. However, you could be violating that other person's rights as per the various bits of caveats that I've pointed out. So going back to point number 2, with regards to charities and NPOs, what people need to understand is that there is no such a thing as an illegitimate NPO or charity. Yes, I've had group administrators, group members, and even ward councillors claiming or making assumptions or referring to having to vet to check to see if these people are legitimate. Well, here's the good news. No group member, no group administrator, and definitely no ward councillor has got any right to do that. Guys, that there is outright unethical and immoral. I want to tell you that up front. You see, there are multiple layers of what's considered NPOs. An NPO is in actual fact a non-profit organization that is registered with the Department of Social Development in terms of the Non-Profit Organizations Act or the Non-Profit Act. Then you get a second one called non-profit companies who are registered with CIPC. And they have got particular obligations to abide to, like the NPO. But an NPC is not an NPO, and an NPO is not an NPC. You've got a third category of non-government organizations, and that is a voluntary association. This is where 3 or more people come together with a common interest and usually form the association through creating or writing up a constitution, because each entity, to become a legal persona or to be considered a juristic person, needs to have a founding document. In the case of a voluntary organization, that will be a constitution. In terms of the NPO and the NPC, that could be a constitution or it could be a memorandum of incorporation. So a voluntary organization can also register as an NPO, and an NPC can also register as an NPO because it adds extra credibility when it comes to fundraising. And then in terms of the Income Tax Act, you've got a public benefit organization where SARS gives approval to an NPO, an NPC, and a voluntary organization whereby they can in actual fact enjoy tax benefits as a public benefit organization who are providing a public benefit activity. So all 3 of these people or categories of people or organizations fall under non-government organization. 2 of them are registered, 1 of them is SARS approved, and the third one is just ordinary members who don't report to or have any legislation which in actual fact oversees their activities. And it's perfectly legal to do it. You as a group member have no right to say it isn't. You as a group administrator have no right to say it isn't legal. And you as a ward councillor definitely don't have that right either to claim that that is illegal. Then in addition to that, now this is where the curveball comes in. You get what's called a CBO, or community-based organisation. This is where you might have several community members coming together with a specific purpose or task, but they don't write up a constitution. Everything is by word of mouth. In any event, they are still considered a community-based organisation, and like all other NGOs, they are there for the benefit of the community. Again, I want to ask this question. Who gives you as a group member or a ward councillor or as a group administrator the right to claim that that community-based organisation is not a legitimate organisation? You see, that again is defamation. Because when you make that claim as a group administrator, ward councillor, or a group administrator on a public platform such as WhatsApp, you are in actual fact causing harm. That's defamation to that non-profit company, that non-profit organisation, that voluntary association, or that community-based organisation. Because in actual fact, your comments and your actions, and by removing anybody that claims to be or is in actual fact part and parcel of that NGO organizational structure, and this is the one time I will use structure, you are bringing about harm to that organization, which ultimately will be harmful to the community. And that is why at the beginning of this voice note, I pointed out that ultimately at the end of the day, this has an impact on disaster risk management and disaster risk reduction. You see, every NPO, every NPC, every voluntary association, and every CBO that is dealing with communities that might be affected by large-scale incidents or emergencies on a large scale or post-disaster are there for the benefit of the community. And through your irresponsible claims that these CBOs, NPCs, NPOs, voluntary associations, PBOs are not legit and legal, and ultimately at the end of the day, you are bringing harm upon your community, which is not in line with disaster risk reduction or disaster risk management. And it is on this basis that when a person comes up on a WhatsApp group, of which every single WhatsApp group is public domain, it's public facing. Every single WhatsApp group is public facing when you've got general members of the public on the group. If you are a business and you've only got your staff, that's not a public group. If you are an organization and you've only got your members, that is not a public group. If you are a company and you've got your customers in that group, that's a public group. Because now you are revealing the identity of one customer to another customer. And the same applies with suppliers. That becomes public domain. And as a group member, as a group administrator, as a ward councillor, you need to understand you are operating in the public domain, and every single thing that you post that is libel, slander, or defamation is harmful to that non-government organization. And when a group member comes up and says, for example, who can I give my clothing to? And you as a group member, another group member on the group, or a group administrator, or even a ward councillor, have something to say in the negative and shut down the sharing of that information, you are responsible for defamation. You are also giving a message to the group members and are implying that that community-based organization or that voluntary association, just because they're not registered with CIPC, or because they're not registered with the Department of Social Development, DSD, or because they don't have a PBO, you don't know if they've got a PBO approval or not. The minute that you shut that conversation down or remove that person or that group or declare that they are not legit, you as a group administrator, a member, or a ward councillor, you are out of line, and that is wrong. So guys, when it comes to these situations, and girls, it must be clearly understood that without a particular case number, and that goes for the NGOs as well, if you've got a problem with an NGO, whether they're an NPC, an NPO, a voluntary association, a CBO, a PBO, if you've been defrauded or whatever the case might be, open a case. Until then, it is advisable not to say a word. Okay, now, I want to concentrate more in closing on the disaster risk reduction. A lot of organizations might come up. Let's work with the donation of clothing, for example. And these organizations are in actual fact collecting clothes. And they're distributing a little here, a little there, but they've always got something sitting in the stockroom or the storeroom or whatever, or the garage of one of the group members, and wham, we have a massive incident, like a tornado rushing through Tembisa, for example, like we had several years back. And many members of the community are affected. That CBO that's got that stuff stored in their garage have got an opportunity to step forward and provide those clothing items that they have. But because you as a group administrator, or because you as a group member, or you as a ward councillor have shut that person down, that organization, that CBO down, there's clothing that would not be available to be distributed amongst the needy following a disaster or post-disaster in Tembisa. And from a disaster risk management perspective, that makes disaster management organizations or organizations involved in the disaster management cycle providing relief. You make it so much more difficult for us to actually manage the risk. You see, those that are involved in the overall planning to provide and bring assistance post-disaster, i.e. providing disaster relief, and even during the rebuilding phase of the disaster management cycle, we need to know that that organization has got stuff sitting in their garage. And again, as a director of disaster relief CERT, I'm going to ask you as a group member, you as a group administrator, and you as a ward councillor, what gives you the right to shut that down? And who gives you that right to shut that down? And ultimately, at the end of the day, all three of the categories I've mentioned need to seriously consider this. And I would like to point out that this that I've described today has actually resulted in, there are formal communique in play currently with certain group members, certain group administrators, and ward councillors nationally, specifically from the disaster relief CERT perspective. Some of the cases have already started. Others are still in the process of being communicated. But I can tell you that when a group member or a group administrator or a ward councillor does this, this is completely against the WhatsApp or the social media charter as published by the South African Human Rights Commission. And due to that charter, that gives us grounds as a disaster risk reduction and risk management organization, the capability of raising complaints with the South African Human Rights Commission, whereby the human rights of our communities are being jeopardized and placed in jeopardy due to group members, group administrators, and ward councillors shutting down or closing down this discussion within their public-facing WhatsApp groups. Therefore, our appeal as an organization, a registered organization, non-profit company, and SARS approved PBO. Group members, please stop this. Group administrators, please stop this as well. Remove the non-case number SAPS reporting messages from your group. If there is a case number attached to it, by all means, go ahead, share it. But you also need to stop shutting down the work of CBOs, PBOs, NPOs, and NPCs. That is, you must, our appeal to you is stop interfering in the work of non-government organizations. Thanks all. I hope this will help people.